Hey everybody, welcome to episode 34 of the Dual Boot Diaries. I'm Will. We're on a Linux journey. We are, we're doing Linux stuff. We're installing distros. We're booting on 2 versions of the OS, and we're not experts, but we do actually have a Linux expert here today. Adam is out on a personal thing this week, but taking his place, equally bearded, is Jeff from Craft Computing. Welcome to the show, Jeff. We're so glad to have you here.
Hello, hello. Thank you very much. This seems to be my week for filling in guest spots on podcasts. Usually it's me calling at the 0 hour going, hey, can you fill in? I had someone with something going on, but this is my 3rd guest spot in a week.
Wow. You're like the Bill Murray of the tech podcast scene right now.
Yeah, I'm doing the PR rounds right now.
Yeah, it's like, I think about I've been getting on YouTube lately because I watched a couple old David Letterman clips. I've been getting like 90s talk show clips.
Yeah.
And there's a couple people that just show up all the time. It's like they're regulars. They lived in New York. It was easy to get them. And,
it was Bill Murray for a while. Then it seemed to be George Clooney, Brad Pitt. There's like years at a time where it's just like, oh yeah, this dude just shows up every 2 weeks.
Somebody who's A-list yet still available. So hey, thanks for being A-list and available, Jeff. We appreciate you.
You're too kind, but thank you for having me.
And this is a departure for me because usually you're an evening podcast person, as I recall.
Yeah.
This morning it's coffee instead of beer, so I hope you're
It feels weird, but yeah, I think we can manage.
Well, okay, so we get to see Stimulant Jeff this morning. Let's see. So first thing, we have 2 topics we're going to hit today. We're not going to do the normal thing because Adam's not here. We'll pick up homework and stuff from last week, next week on the next regular episode. But today we're going to talk about, well, you've switched your entire family to Linux for gaming.
I did. Yes.
Which I have a lot of questions about because I don't think that would go super well in my house. But
I have some answers.
Okay. But before we do that, I want to talk about single serve computing because I've been working on this project. It's off to my right back here, where I've basically moved my streaming setup. I have a 2 PC streaming setup, so I'm basically piping one computer's output into the second computer. Yeah. And I've moved that to Linux, and I'm working on making it kind of a single serve computer, right? It just boots up automatically. The stuff that I need launches. It connects to my Stream Deck, and then I can just hit some buttons and go without having to really think about what's going on in that computer. And then, but there's some issues, right? So at the end of that process, when I turn it off, I would love for it to just download the updates and install them without me having to think about it. And there's like stuff like that would be really nice to get to. But I'd love to hear what you're doing and how you use it and where you kind of start when you're thinking about this process.
Yeah. Single serve computers. I do them a lot, not necessarily in a physical sense, but I do a lot of one-time use VM spin-ups or single function VMs. Specifically when I'm doing testing for new software or hardware combos. I do a lot of what I call self-hosted cloud gaming testing. And so I'll get like a server graphics card and I'll throw it into a server and then I'll bifurcate it out so I can use that one GPU to render games on multiple machines. And those VMs that I spin up end up being like single use. The only reason they exist is to open Steam and run a benchmark.
Okay.
And so I do that same kind of thing all the time. And luckily, my day job used to be building Windows images for deployments for organizations. And so I'm pretty well versed in custom image spin-ups and, automation tasks and things like that. So what do you want to know?
Yeah, well, okay. Let's talk about the cloud stuff. I've been following that. I think it's Cloudy Gamer subreddit for years and years, just as a kind of like, hey, when you have friends who want to get into PC gaming, I really think it started with PUBG because people wanted to play PUBG and they didn't want to buy a 980 or 1080 or whatever the hot card was at the time because they were kind of expensive. And I started pointing people toward things like GeForce Now, and then I became aware of that kind of self-hosted, roll your own version of GeForce Now thing without any of the GeForce Now limitations. That kind of just works, and
yeah,
I'm I guess the first place to start is how much does that cost actually?
Amazingly enough, if you're the kind of person who has a server, I'm part of home lab communities and I do a lot of self-hosted stuff. If you have a server somewhere and you have a graphics card, you can pass that graphics card through to a virtual machine and treat it just like a gaming PC. It's not running, it's running physical hardware, but it's a virtualized instance of whatever OS you want to run, whether it's Windows or a Linux distro like Bazzite is awesome for stuff like this. But yeah, it's super simple to pass through a graphics card to a virtual machine. And then if you have friends who want to, try out PC gaming, but all they have is like a Chromebook or a laptop or an iPad or something like that, you can have them connect with a remote client and use a full-on gaming desktop from whatever device they have.
And are you using something like Moonlight and Sunshine, or are you using one of the more commercial things?
There's Parsec is probably the most well-known commercial one. There's a couple others, but Parsec's probably the silver bullet for most use cases, especially like remote. The person isn't on your local LAN. But for internal, I usually use Sunshine and Moonlight as a streaming combo. There's also a really neat fork of Sunshine called Apollo. And what that does is it adds virtual display driver support. One of the weird things with virtualized gaming is in order for graphics cards to work, to render a game, they have to have a display connected. If you virtualize a graphics card, it doesn't have a display connected. And so there's no frame buffer to be able to write to be able to read from, to be able to actually get your games out. Apollo is a really neat tool. It's basically Sunshine, but with a virtual display driver. And so it handles let's create a 1080p display and we'll attach it to your graphics card virtually. And now we have a thing to render to.
So it's funny. I do that in Linux with Sunshine by piping it out to the capture card on my second, because the capture card's always hot just because USB never turns off on that PC.
Yeah.
And that works great. I know some people use like HDMI dongles for that. I use Apollo on the Windows side because it handles, like on Linux, it's really easy for me to have a little script that runs when I launch a game that connect. When Moonlight connects, I run a little script that turns off the monitors on my desk and makes that the only monitors connected.
Yeah.
So the games just kind of go to that not turned on monitor on the capture card, right? On Apollo, on Windows, that's really hard to do, it turns out. And Apollo just kind of solved that problem for me. Yeah. And it's awesome. So that like these monitors turn off. I'm not running a bunch of extra monitors I don't need. And yeah, I'm a big fan of Apollo. It doesn't work as well on Linux in my experience.
No. And in fact, the virtual display driver in Linux is like a compile from source thing. And I've had about a 5% success rate getting it to work.
It's better to get that. Like when Adam was doing virtual machine stuff, we found it was easier to just buy a $20 HDMI dongle that you plug in when you need it.
I have literally dozens of them around for various things.
So, So if you're doing, this is interesting for if you have the rack, but if you don't have the rack, you can do the same thing with like one of the cloud computing providers too, right?
Totally. Yeah. You can, actually, Microsoft Azure is a really interesting use case because through Microsoft Azure, you can lease out an AMD V710, which is one of their cloud-connected GPUs, and it supports full rasterization. Not many enterprise GPUs do these days. But the V710 is a Navi 32-based card, so it's RDNA 3. It's essentially equivalent to like a 7700 XT or something. And so you can just rent an Azure instance with 4 cores and one of these V710 instances and create your own cloud gaming system, no service provider required.
Is that an hourly cost at that point?
Yeah, it's an hourly cost at that point. There's also a whole bunch of other providers. I've worked with, what was the company called? I'm drawing a blank now. There's
like
quite a
Rackspace
few.
Or something, right?
It's not Rackspace. No, there was a company out of Toronto that was doing like full leased bare metal machines.
I remember that. Yeah. There's this is the thing that pops up on Cloudy Gamer all the time. Is there's the combination. Are you going to lease a full machine and like essentially rent a computer in the cloud that's yours all the time?
Right.
Or does it make more sense to just pay for the 3 hours a week that you play if you're a light gamer?
Yeah, if you're a really light gamer, the paying 3 hours for an Azure instance is probably the best way to go. I know with the one that I'm thinking of out of Toronto, they gave you like a 4-hour block per day, and so if your schedule meets that, it was something like $12 a month, and you get 4 hours a day every day.
Yeah.
Plus you get like six flex hours. So if like on a weekend you're like, it's 10 a.m, I want to play a game, it doesn't cost you any extra. And then
That's
if you
awesome.
do go over, it's like $1.50 an hour, something like that. So pretty affordable compared to gaming PC prices these days.
Yeah, compared to $1,000 worth of RAM.
Yeah.
What I guess on the AWS side and the Azure side, the kind of more commercial stuff, I'm always really like terrified of messing up the billing. It's easy to get in there and like hit a button and be like, oh man, I just accidentally got $1,000 bill. I got to call and get them to excuse for me.
What you don't want to do is leave Furmark running and then close the window and never come back to it.
Oh God, that sounds expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually that just kills your GPU, but this time it's going to kill your bank account too.
Yeah. You kill the GPU and your credit card.
Well, I mean, so the thing on the plus side, having done this on the commercial sense and having run like game servers and stuff like that, if you make a mistake that costs a lot of money that you're not actually using once or twice, they'll often work with you on that.
Yeah.
So it's not like the end of the world if you do make an honest mistake and cost yourself a ton of money. They might kill your account after you make the honest mistake and be like, hey, we don't want your business anymore. But that's okay.
Yeah, but most of these data centers are paying like 12 cents a kilowatt hour for power. So, you running a graphics card at full bore, it's going to cost them, $6 in electricity for a month versus, they'll charge you $1,000 for the instance because you were taking up other commercial space. But yeah.
But so, okay, how do you manage? Do you just have to understand how this stuff works really well to manage costs, or is it
basically? Yeah, there's also things that you can do, like when I close my session, close all active programs, and you can script out things like that. But for the most part, I do a lot of hosting with that kind of stuff at home. And the thing about like you mentioned, if you have a server rack, that's nice and easy. You don't even need a server rack. If you've got your old gaming PC, drop 2 graphics cards into it, install Proxmox, pass 2 graphics cards through to a virtual machine, and now you have a 1 PC, 2 gamer remote situation that you can use.
That you can give to friends when you want to play games with them.
That you can give to friends or they can, just dial into. So that's fascinating. And so Proxmox, for folks who don't know, is a like hypervisor home lab thing. You can kind of sits underneath all the other stuff, and then you can run images or Docker containers or whatever you want on it, right? Yeah, it's essentially a Debian-based distribution that has all the standard Linux virtualization stuff. It's based on KVM and QEMU, which are standardized virtualization processes, but it has a really nice GUI over the top of it. It's really intuitive, really easy to use. Everything is basically point and click for setup. And you can spin up virtual machines and pass through graphics cards, and boom, you have gaming PCs.
Well, and you could also do stuff like run a Plex image or something like that in the background that then uses the GPU to decode when they're not being used for other things and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's not a single service computer at that point. That's a like a Swiss Army knife computer is what you're talking about.
Right.
Do you do any, like, the classic example of, hey, I have a problem and I want to solve it is with like a little machine is either like Home Assistant or Raspberry Pi Hole or something like that.
Yeah.
I think everybody started, like I started with a Home Assistant machine by taking an old Raspberry Pi that was sitting around and was like, oh, maybe this will be better than my SmartThings hub. And about 15 minutes later, I was like, "Oh yeah, we're SmartThings and I are breaking up. New bestie is Home Assistant."
Yeah.
And I've never looked back. But do you do? Both of those come prepackaged, right? Mm-hmm. So they're basically you have the hardware. You're downloading an image. You install the image on a flash drive or a small SSD or something, and then you're good to go. How have you done anything where you like roll your own kind of single serve machine? I
do. So for basically like service host kind of things, I mean, that's the essence of home labbing is how can I run a thing that makes my life easier or provides a service. And so in my server rack, I have multiple nodes that are running Proxmox, and those are running virtual machines that serve things like Plex or Pi-hole or, all the Home Assistant, all the popular services. A lot of those are just, easy download installs and you run them and they just kind of run. I have also rolled my own. Probably one of my most popular self-built ones is a VPN gateway. And what that is kind of like Pi-hole is like your own self-hosted DNS with ad blocking. Mm-hmm. If you use a commercial VPN service like NordVPN or something like that, you'll know that it only has clients for certain devices. And you have to log in on your phone, connect to Nord, and then now you're through a VPN tunnel. But what if I have like an Amazon Fire Stick on my TV and I want to watch out of region, content? Mm-hmm. There's no easy way to pipe your smart TV through a VPN to be out of region. The VPN
they intentionally
gateway,
don't provide that as a feature, just to be clear. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Through the VPN gateway, all I do is instead of sending my Fire Stick out to the internet at large, is I have a little virtual machine that all it does is run OpenVPN and connects to NordVPN, and I can select which server that I want that to connect to. But then that server also routes any incoming traffic on my LAN and sends it to the VPN. So it never touches the open internet outside of that tunnel.
Wild.
So I can pipe any device in my house through a VPN and have it come out anywhere in the world that I want, including my Fire Sticks, including gaming handhelds, including all client free. The client or the device you're using is completely oblivious to the fact that it's going through the tunnel.
How do you do that? Just by setting the gateway in your network settings to that address?
Yeah, you change the gateway from like my network gateway is 10.0.0.1. The virtual machine is 10.0.0.10. And so all I do is change the gateway IP on my client device and it goes through the VPN instead.
That is wild. I've got to get on that business.
Yeah.
We watch a lot of Australian Survivor in this house, and it turns out it's a real pain in the butt. So
yeah, we do a lot of BBC programming. We watch the Canadian Olympics coverage because screw NBC.
I gotta say, like, I'm a big fan of complaining about the NBC's Olympics coverage over the years. Yeah. This year they finally gave me the thing that I wanted, which, as long as I paid for Peacock, of course, which was, hey, you could just watch the event. There's nobody talking over it. There's no human interest nonsense. It's all, not just the Americans and the three people who win. It's like the actual, you get to watch the whole thing. And I was like, oh, this is fantastic. I watched like 15 hours of curling. It
was just on my TV while I was down here working, and no commentary or anything like that. And it's just like sitting up in the stands, and it's a couple of cameras that'll pan back and forth, but you get to watch all the events.
Now, the problem I had was that my wife was like, hey, there's none of the stories about the people here. And I was like, oh no, I didn't know this about you.
They got to her. No,
30 years we've been together. This is terrible to find out this late in the relationship.
Is it too late to tap out?
Yeah. We can get this annulled, right? So, okay. I'm just kidding, sweetie. I know you're not watching, but it's a joke.
I had no intention of coming on and ruining your marriage.
Yeah, thanks for that. We've been dating since the 90s. It's good that first I find out about you in the motion smoothing, and then you destroy my marriage. I'm never having you on the show again, Jeff.
I'm taking you down one peg at a time, man.
Like you're so quietly destroying my life, just pulling the underpinnings out. No, it's that's fantastic. That is an incredible, and you've done videos about that. I feel like I've seen those before. Yeah.
Yeah, I did one. I updated it just a couple of months ago because privacy and data autonomy and sovereignty has been kind of a hot button topic in the world of tech lately, with various websites going dark in certain states and age requirements and all kinds of stuff. And it's like, well, what if you would just wanted to sail from friendlier waters? Like, here's a way that you can do that.
So that kind of stuff you're running on Proxmox. It sounds like you don't have a lot of dedicated machines. You're just doing.
Yeah, a lot of VMs is what I spin up. I've got probably about 12 to 15 virtual machines that some of them are single function, some of them are roll my own services, some of them are just pre-downloaded like Plex and Home Assistant and things like that. Yeah.
So when you roll your own, where do you start? Like if you're starting with a VM, do you start with Debian? Do you start with Ubuntu, something that's relatively straightforward?
I usually go Ubuntu server. people love to hate on Ubuntu because it's like, oh, that's not real Linux, or it's Linux with training wheels or whatever. It's like, yeah, I kind of like that because I can install the service I want and then it just kind of runs and I know it's going to get updated. Is it the latest bleeding edge, packages? No, but I also know it's probably going to be stable when the update hits me. So
that for me is the question is do I need the brand new version, or is like living 6 months in the past fine? If living 6 months in the past is fine, Ubuntu's great, right?
Yeah. And you get all the immediate security updates for Ubuntu too. It's just some of the kernel level stuff doesn't quite get to you on day 0. Maybe it's day 35 that it gets to you.
Well, for me, it's stuff like OBS is often like a couple of major revisions behind, right?
Yeah.
And you can work around that by using snaps or Flatpaks or whatever, but there's some downsides on that. But on a server, it's less important, right? Like curl doesn't get updated in a major way that often, it turns out.
Right. Yeah, and like for my VPN gateway, I'm using the OpenVPN open source client that just runs on Ubuntu server. I'm using the Ubuntu firewall to handle all the routing, and so that doesn't get updated. And it's also, I'm not accessing this machine directly and doing different things with it. It's literally serving that one function, and that just needs to run.
You made me realize that I want this, but for my cloud storage. Like, I want the same thing, right? I want a machine that's just sitting there running rclone that's basically like a Samba endpoint on my network that I can then connect to all of my cloud stuff without having to have the cloud clients actually running on the machine.
Yeah. You can do, I believe Nextcloud supports syncing. And so it will download your cloud files onto a local host, and then you can access your files on the local box that will sync with your cloud provider, but you access them without actually having to install the Google Workspace client or the Dropbox client or whatever else. Yeah.
I think you could also do that with rclone, right? You could use rclone to just have melt points on like a spin up virtual machine that lives. Yeah. Anyway, wheels are spinning. Yes. Okay. So you start with the OS, you install the packages you need. Do you have like an empty VM that you start with that you spin up once, or is it just easy enough that you just do fresh installs when you're doing a new VM?
It's easy enough. I typically just do brand new installs and then run updates as soon as it downloads, and then I'm on the latest version and we're good to go. There are ways to basically build your own packages and images, and like I said, I used to design images and build them from scratch as a day job for like 6 or 7 years. And let me tell you, that gets old really quickly. It saves a lot of time if you're deploying 500 images, but it doesn't save time if you are deploying one image every 3 weeks.
But my first job out of college was maintaining about 1,200 computers for a university biology department. And it was before that stuff really existed, like Partition Magic and SciQuest. What are the disk imaging tools? I can't remember.
Oh gosh,
and we were like, oh, this imaging thing, this has got some real juice.
There was Norton Ghost for a while. That was a popular one.
Ghost we used. Ghost wouldn't do. There was something about Ghost that wouldn't work. I think it messed up the bootloader or something. I can't remember. There was another one from like SciQuest it might have been from the Partition Magic people that made it suddenly a viable thing, and it completely saved us during the Windows night. Look, I'm old, Jeff, so it was during the Y2K bug lead up where we were updating every device in the like. If you ask me how to update a Sun Microsystems Spark machine, I got you. I can do that. I can tell you how to update that for Y2K, but
I started doing image deployment for Windows 2000 and XP, so I'm not that much younger than you.
just a little bit, just a smidge.
Yeah.
So you have the OS installed, you get your services. How do you make sure that instance stays updated and stuff like that? How do you make sure it gets security updates and all that?
For the most part, usually about once a month, I'll just run an apt update and an apt upgrade just on all the VMs. I'll log into them and do it. Again, you can script this out if you wanted, but it's also nice if you hear about a potential bug in your newsfeed or whatever else for a service that you're running, you go, oh, I just don't want to run that one for that client this day. And I'll skip that one and then I'll do it the next month. Because you go, oh no, they broke the Ubuntu firewall broke in this weird way that I happen to use on this service. just not going to run the update on that machine this day.
So how much time are you spending maintaining this stuff, do you think, at the end of the day?
Not that much time. Like I said, usually the first Saturday of every month is update day, and I'll just come downstairs with my coffee, and 20 minutes later, I've pushed updates to all my machines. Like it's
just apt update, install, apt update, copy and paste it into 35 different terminals.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Wherever possible, I try to make sure I'm using package manager for like Plex. You can download the deb package for Plex and then install it manually, but then you don't get updates with the rest of your system updates. You have to manually reinstall or use the Plex GUI to go in and push an update.
Hit the button, yeah.
Versus they also have a repo version of the Plex server that when you apt update, you'll get that as well. And so if a package is available there, I usually just get that.
Yeah, like in my experience on Linux, it's been better to live inside either the package manager or like the Flatpak ecosystem.
Exactly. Yeah.
Although on server stuff, I often use Docker. Like for Plex, getting the Docker container set up and working was a real pain in the butt, just because getting GPU acceleration through Docker 100 years ago when I set that up was weird. Yeah. It's much easier now, it seems like. But that provides a similar. Like in order to update the Docker container, I just restart the Docker container and it pulls the new image and all that kind of stuff just happens automatically, which is nice.
Yeah.
I think this is a pretty good rundown. What am I forgetting to ask you about here? I feel like security, like how do you, with the VMs, you do networks so each machine gets its own IP address. So that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. With a virtual machine, I mean, you get essentially a virtual network card. It's got its own MAC address on the network. It gets an IP address just like anything else. It's just not a physically separate, device. It's one cable coming into the server.
Are you doling out static IP addresses to all of these microservices, or I guess where needed?
Yeah, for the microservices like Plex has a static IP address because I also do port forwarding, so I can access my Plex server from outside. Same with a couple of other services that I run. Some of my and then there's other ones like my DNS server, my Pi-hole, those need static IP, so your clients know where to find them. Yeah. If a service needs a static IP address, sure. If it doesn't, go DHCP. That's totally fine too. If it just needs to be a service that runs on the network. I run 2 VLANs. I have a server VLAN for all of my services and physical boxes and management and switches and things like that. And then I have a client VLAN, which is basically my Wi-Fi network. And so it's not quite a flat network, but things can still communicate between the two. And if you have good working DNS, you can access things by name or by service, and you don't have to port forward or do weird things between the networks.
Does that mean you can do stuff like AirPlay and all that kind of stuff still works, right?
Yes.
Okay.
AirPlay's a fun one. Because,
AirPlay's a nightmare, it turns out.
There is a really simple tool that you can run on a network as a service, as a standalone single-purpose box, called an Avehi repeater. And basically what that does is it emulates a Bonjour box. AirPlay and all those associated protocols still run on Apple Bonjour as a protocol. All you do is you give the server a network endpoint in each of those 2 networks, and it will take any Bonjour broadcast traffic from each network and rebroadcast it to the other.
Oh, across the subnets, across the VLANs?
Across the subnets. Yep.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. It's
I didn't know that.
Stupid simple service.
So that's AVAHI?
Yeah, Avehi, AVAHI.
I have never heard anybody pronounce that before, so that's fascinating. I that's not how I would have said that. But okay, so that is magic. I didn't know that existed. I'm going to have to set that up because I've resisted doing VLANs specifically because I want to be able to AirPlay stuff from one thing to the other, and like they don't fit into natural silos really. Like, strangely
enough, I've never done a tutorial on that. That should be one that I have a video on.
I would watch that video. I will watch that video and share it.
I used to do IT work for clients, including schools and things like that. And back when Apple TVs were like, oh, we have to have an Apple TV connected to the projector in this classroom. It's like, okay, well, how do we manage that infrastructure? And how do we make sure that the clients within that classroom can communicate with that Apple TV that may be on a drop that's in the same VLAN and maybe it's not?
Getting the teachers' computers and the kids' iPads all connected to the Apple TV. Look, I can tell that that Oregon schools are better funded than California schools because we still have the Apple TVs connected to our projectors. And they're not the new Apple TVs either. They're the first gen black boxes. They're like 15 years old at this point. Yeah. They do not run a version of tvOS.
Yes.
But yeah, that's fascinating. Like at some point I need to talk to you about how to do VLANs right, because I'm in a situation where this is completely off the Linux topic, so I apologize, but my default subnet is almost out of IP addresses, and I'm just good enough at networking to understand why I should be careful making changes here, but not good enough to do it in an intelligent and safe way. Yeah. So anyway, to be continued. But I think this is a great place for us to take a quick break and thank our sponsors, our advertising overlords for supporting the show. Jeff, we will be right back in just a moment. And we're back. That was incredibly fast.
I didn't even finish my coffee yet. Warn me next time, man.
Look, I told you it was going to be a quick break. It's probably a little quicker for us than for listeners at home, but thanks to our sponsors.
Movie magic going on there.
Yeah, it's almost just like I marked the space that the ad goes in the show, and then nothing happened for us. So let's see. We getting real.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yeah, Adam's not here, so there's no rules, man. We are going to talk about. So my wife doesn't play a lot of PC games. She's not a big PC gamer. She gets motion sick when we play shooters, so it kind of shuts down a lot of the PC gaming space for her. But I feel like if I switched her computer to Linux, I would probably have that would be the final nail in the coffin, honestly. After the Olympics thing and the motion smoothing, that would be it. Tell me what you've done and how it's going.
Yeah. So I have my office downstairs, and I've got a gaming PC over here, and I've been on Linux for a long time. And in fact, there's one Windows PC in my entire office, and it's actually my little arcade box that's behind me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's running Windows 7 because that's the easiest way to run an arcade machine.
The last good Windows.
Yeah, exactly. But recently, my wife needed a PC upgrade. Her PC was getting to be about 4-ish years old, and was starting to chug in a couple of games that she plays. And so
it's a great time for upgrading.
Great time for it. Yeah,
exactly what you want to do right now.
Yeah, no kidding. So luckily, as a reviewer, sometimes you get hardware in, and it was really nice. So Minis Forum actually sent over a PC for review. It was the G1 Pro. It's a 16-core Zen 4 mobile CPU, but with an RTX 5060 desktop graphics card inside of it. And,
oh, wow.
It's a killer rig.
It's like one of their little boxes?
Yeah, it's basically the same size and shape as like a PS5. It stands vertically.
Holy cow.
It's a super cool machine.
That's right.
So anyway, I'm like, okay, once I'm done with the review, you can have this one. This is a fantastic upgrade for you. But her old PC was also on Windows 10. And she goes, I don't know that I want to move to Windows 11. I've heard you complain about Copilot and all the weird things that Windows does, and I went, yeah. Would you be willing to give Linux a shot?
Wait, you didn't just send her the letter that they posted a couple weeks ago? They're like, hey man, we hear you. We hear that you don't like Windows anymore, and we're gonna make it better. She didn't buy into the hype. She wasn't like on board with
she's not willing to wait for them to remove Copilot from Notepad. Okay. She just wants it gone. Right.
Okay, fair.
And so she kind of she asked the question like, hey, what should I move to? And I went, whew. So we went ahead and installed Bazite onto her machine. And there were a lot of questions about like, well, is all my software going to work? And I went, I don't know, but there's really only one way to find out. And that's...
Does she primarily use it? Is this a piece you use mostly for games, or is it work and games?
Mostly for games. Okay. She does do a lot of side projects. So she's a homemaker. She takes care of our kids. Doesn't have full-time employment, but she does a lot of crafting stuff.
That counts as full-time employment.
Oh, it absolutely does. Yeah. No. Yeah. That's a whole other conversation. Yeah. Simply saying she doesn't have any required tasks from a bill paying standpoint.
The work is self-imposed rather than
exactly.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
But
she's an independent contractor is what I'm hearing.
Yes. So she goes, well, I know all my games will work, but what about, all the other things that I do? Like, can I still get on Facebook? And I went, yeah, it's got a browser. You can get on Facebook. You can do all that kind of stuff. She goes, okay, well, what about like some of my crafting stuff? She has an embroidery machine. She has a Cricut vinyl cutter. And I went, I don't know. That's a great question. And I can't answer that until we try. And so she goes, all right, let's try it. And we installed Bazite, and she is 100% for gaming. Okay. All of her games work. They install through the Steam client. I think there's been one game that I had to specify use a different version of Proton. And so we've had to access the context menu once to go, oh no, use Proton 9 instead of experimental. And then the game fired up. That's
pretty good. Like I've had really good luck. Like it seems like even in the 9 months or whatever that I've been running Linux day to day, it's gotten much better. Like that aspect of it.
Yeah.
The Proton 11 stuff that's coming out now seems like real fire, absolute hot fire business from Valve. So
yes, add in the little bit of what is it, Flex or Fex, the ARM compatibility that's coming. Ooh, I cannot wait.
Yeah, I'm incredibly excited to see how well that goes. So, okay, I want to talk about the crafting stuff because I've been it's interesting how I have a 3D printer. I do laser cutting. I have a Glowforge in the garage. I haven't done Cricut or embroidery machine type stuff in a long time, and not since I switched to Linux.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say that the Bamboo, the 3D printing game on Linux is shockingly good.
Really
like it is
good. Yeah.
Between Orca as the open solution and the Bamboo Studio software just running natively on Linux, is kind of remarkable. And was completely unexpected. The Glowforge stuff is all web based, so it works fine. Mm-hmm. I mean, I realize that there are a large number of people out there who are like, "Oh, you got to use the web to blah blah blah." But in this case, I don't care because I'll take the convenience over the.
A tool is a tool, and as long as you can use it, it's a good tool.
Yeah, and if they shut down the servers at some point and kill my 10-year-old Glowforge, I'll be upset. But until then, I'm going to continue enjoying what I've got.
Yeah.
But how does the Cricut go? How do the embroidery machines work?
The embroidery machine was basically a non-starter. I tried multiple ways. The software was Windows only. I tried multiple ways to get it working. Lutris is a great tool for trying to get obscure pieces of software up and running, even though it's primarily used for gaming, but it has all the same compatibility layer components that you would want for getting just a Windows executable going.
Well, so let's talk about that a little bit, because this is something I've seen people talk about and I haven't really spent a lot of time with. Like, would you say that you mean you can choose which version of Wine it uses and stuff like that? Or
yeah,
and you can build like per application profiles for things, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you can choose which version of Wine, which because Lutris also can use all the Steam versions of Proton and Wine and DXVK and all that kind of stuff, but it also has its own versions and like GE Proton and different builds. And until you try it, you don't know. Mm-hmm. But what I can say is the particular embroidery software that she uses was a non-starter. It doesn't work, at least on Bazite. I could not get it to run.
Did you try running it through an emulator and just piping the USB? I assume it's a USB connection.
Yeah, it's a USB connection to that. We could probably do like some kind of virtual instance or something like that and make that work. She also has a Windows laptop. And so I just went, for right now, just use your embroidery on the laptop. And in fact, we have a cable on the desk so she can plug her laptop in and then use her keyboard, mouse, and monitor to do the embroidery stuff. So
Look, my family business when I was a kid was a whole load of sorry, Adam, beep, a whole bunch of embroidery machines in a factory in Northeast Tennessee, and the way you run those is with a dedicated computer each one. Now, at that time, the dedicated computer was a box about the size of a mini fridge that had a giant paper tape machine on it. But that was just because the embroidery machine business was lagged a little bit behind the modern computers in the 80s and early 90s.
Yeah.
Anyway, dedicated computer for the embroidery machine. How does the Cricut do? I assume there's probably software for that, given how widely available those things are.
The Cricut actually works pretty darn well. And so she's found no differences or bugs or anything that she couldn't do in Linux that she could do in Windows, and so that's been great.
Was she on? What was she using to make the art for these things? Is she using like Inkscape or something like that, or was she on Adobe before and has had to find alternatives?
I know she's used Inkscape before. She never used Photoshop or Illustrator or anything like that. She's I believe she used basically just like the vector tool that's within the Cricut software, and I know she's used Inkscape as well.
Okay.
So
I know in my school community, Canva rules all, it seems like, in terms of like creating those kinds of vectory assets for flyers and stuff like that. I didn't know how they live in the Cricut and other communities.
Yeah, and basically the same kind of thing. She's getting clip art and modifying it to do various different things. We have a special needs child. Our youngest is special needs, and so we have a vinyl patch that she printed on the side of our car. That is a place that he puts his hand. So when we get out of the car, he knows to put his hand there, so she can turn around and close the door and grab bags and things like that.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah, and but printed it out with something that he likes, and so it's a little incentive to keep your hand on the car.
That's incredible. Like that, it's funny, that kind of stuff. Like, so I spent a lot of time with 3D printers a long time ago when they were bad, and I hadn't gotten a modern printer. I hadn't used a modern printer in a while, and then I had a friend of the show, Norman Chan from Tested, on the Tech Pod a few weeks ago, and we talked about 3D printers, and he completely sold me in like an hour and a half long conversation.
Yeah.
So I got a P2S here, and I've been like, it's amazing. How little I have to think about the actual 3D printing. It's much more about like loading up doing the design and thinking about a little bit about how you want it to, like how you can orient it so it's going to print well. But the printing is so easy now compared to what it was even like 5 or 10 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. Even 5 years ago, it's a night and day difference. Sorry, we're getting off the Linux track, but I want to talk 3D printers because you started it.
It's my fault.
Yeah, I have a Prusa Mark III S Plus, and that was my daily driven workhorse for all of my stuff. I did a lot of design work. I design cases for devices that I sell and need to be able to print them out reliably. And that is a heavily modified printer. It's got a 60-watt Dragonfly hot end. It's got hardened extruder gears. It's got a custom nozzle on it. I built an enclosure for it. And as good as it was, I bought a Bamboo P1S, and that immediately replaced it for speed and quality and ease of use and everything in between. And now I have a mini print farm. I have 3 P1Ss, all of which have Diamondback nozzles on them. So cleanest running, cleanest extruding nozzle you can possibly get on a 3D printer. It's $100, but 100 times worth it if you don't have one.
And you're putting like composited fibers and stuff like that in there, like engineering fiber?
I do a lot of composites. I do a lot of glass fill PETG. It's my favorite filament. It takes all the good things about PETG, where it's slightly flexible, but it can't do overhangs. It fixes the overhang problem. It's better than PLA because PLA, while it's very hard, it's also very brittle. PETG has some flex to it, but now it's also extremely rigid in multiple directions. And so it's a great filament, and I run that through all the time, and it's fantastic. So it's been fun to explore. Like it's funny because I think everybody starts out doing the same thing. Like I have this Elgato face cam that's on my computer, and the mount for it is on the bottom, and I really wanted it to be on the back just because of the way my desk is laid out. Yeah. So I just, like, the first thing I did was just design a right angle thing with a couple holes in it, jam some screw mounts in there, and now all of a sudden the problem that has been annoying me for 3 years is solved. And now I'm starting to move on to other stuff. Like I'm going to do some concrete casting, and anyway, we'll talk about that on a future episode. I haven't done concrete casting, but that's been on my list.
Yeah. Look, I've been doing prototypes and learning how to do interface materials. Here's a sneak preview. Don't look at this, but it's my wife's a Valkyries fan. Nice. So we're making Mother's Day gnomes. Ooh, is nice. The idea. But we'll see how that goes. I'll report back on a future episode, I guess. I think So she's into the games. Like the only thing I've played recently outside of like the obvious stuff like Fortnite and Call of Duty that just aren't going to work because of anti-cheat mostly is Marathon. Just is like that. Bungie doesn't like doing Linux compatible anti-cheat, it seems.
No, and that is the biggest thing. So we installed Linux on both the upstairs desktops, and in fact, we have a third one that's going to go up there. While I'm 100% fine with Linux gaming and have been doing it for a number of years now, I was a little questionable on whether or not all of her games would be compatible. And as it turns out, they are. She plays games like Bannerlords. She does Jurassic Park Evolution, the park building.
Oh yeah, that game's great.
She does a lot of that. She plays a lot of simple games, Stardew Valley and things like. But I also
Stardew Valley is not a simple game.
No, it is not.
Yeah,
I mean, like graphically simple.
Yeah, technically maybe, but
yeah.
Look, you want all those people to like you. You got to do a lot of work. Okay.
Yes, Leah, my love. Yeah. But I also recently got her into Crab Champions. And what's funny is she's never been like a shooter fan at all. And we've been playing Crab Champions a couple times a week now.
Fantastic.
And so, yeah, she's starting to get into like some more intensive games. And I never thought she'd be a fan of a bullet hell game, but here we are. Now, my sister also lives with us, and she plays a lot of games that we thought wouldn't be compatible either. I've played Red Dead Redemption 2, and she's recently gotten into that, and she goes, "Oh, yeah, that works just fine. I can fire that up, and that's great." She plays some gacha games though, and those turn out to be also non-starters. I know Infinity Nikki was a no-go. Don't Judge. She also plays Uma. It's the horse girl racing.
Game.
Yeah.
Look, that took Giant Bomb by storm last year. It's all.
Exactly. Yeah. No judgment. But she loves that one. She's got a streak going, and that one didn't launch. It kind of like loaded a white screen and then kicked out. And as we found out, it's the anti-cheat. Now, Uma is compatible with the Steam Deck, but only the Steam Deck. For some reason, the developers decided to put a flag in that if you're running on a Steam Deck, will allow you to run on Linux. But if you're running on any other version of Linux, it kicks you out.
So I've seen games that use de novo for that, that before. I wonder if you can do the Steam Deck. What is it? Steam Deck equals 1 or something in the command line in Steam, and it works. But then you're stuck at 1280 by 800.
I did try that, and it did not work.
No love. Okay.
Yeah.
Boo. Have you introduced either of them to the Proton DB yet? Are you sending them out on their own to find their own are you teaching them to fish, or are you fishing for them, Jeff?
I am not fishing for them. I did teach my wife that, download your game, open Steam, download the game, and hit play. And if it doesn't play, here's a couple tweaks that you can make on your own. You can go to the compatibility list, and you can try a different version of Proton. Try to stick to something 8 and higher. Usually you're going to have pretty good luck there. I didn't show her Proton DB, but she also hasn't had to ask about any game yet. She installs the games, and they've all just worked.
Yeah. Have you? Are you running them? Are they running out of GameScope, or are they running in on the desktop mode?
Just the Steam native client.
Okay. Yeah. But like in desktop, or in the different
in
session?
In desktop.
Yeah. I mean, so that's the next thing I want to do is I think I'm going to set up a session locally that's a Steam native client session on my desktop machine, just so that I can like mode shift between work and games. And kind of separate them a little bit more, and maybe get a little bit more hoist out of the computer on the GameScope mode. Although I actually don't know how that runs on NVIDIA these days. I'm still on NVIDIA on my desktop, so I feel like it should be fine, but probably not, because NVIDIA's drivers are weird and janky.
It does work. There is a little bit of a hit. Like you'll notice games run probably about 10% slower.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's not overly dramatic, especially if you have like a decent, like if you're rocking like a 4070, you're not going to notice.
Yeah.
If you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, like you've got a 2060, 10%'s a big deal these days.
Yeah.
So your mileage may vary, but I've had pretty good luck.
Well, that's fantastic. I think this is as good a place as any to wrap it up. Let's take one more quick break from our sponsors, and we'll be right back to close out the show. Jeff from Craft Computing, has been delightful having you here. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming by and chatting with me and sharing like the stuff that you're like. What are you excited about in Linux? This is the question I should ask everyone, and I don't really.
The thing I am most excited for in Linux is actually kind of left field, but also kind of not. It is actually the Steam frame and that FEX compatibility layer that's coming for the x86 to ARM translation. That I think is going to dramatically change the way some of us play games.
You're going to just be full goggles all the time? Is that your thought? Or are you thinking about like ARM laptops and stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm not even talking specifically about the Steam frame. I'm talking about what the impact of the Steam frame and that level of compatibility will be, because Valve is porting SteamOS over to a native ARM device and then including x86 to ARM translation. They're going to run the Windows client or the Linux client, but with full compatibility for Windows or Linux or Android executables all in one device. Well, think of all those Android handhelds that have been proliferating the market for the last couple of years. The AYN Thor and the Aya Neo and all these other devices that run ARM, Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, Gen 3 chips that could now all of a sudden have a Steam client that you can install your Windows games onto. And instead of paying $1,300 for a handheld, you can pay $350 for a handheld and be able to play these games.
Yeah, I think out of all that Valve hardware announcement stuff that they did last year, the ARM translation layer was the thing that immediately grabbed me as, it's also going to be great for Mac people, potentially, assuming the ARM CPU, like assuming the requirements on the ARM CPUs line up right. But
yeah. The Apple people have been making really great strides on getting Metal to behave well with the translation layers, because Vulkan is not a native API on Mac for whatever reason.
God only knows why. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's been really great strides with things like GameHub getting Windows games compatible. Well, adding FEX to that is going to take out a huge amount of workload for getting those games compatible. There's also NVIDIA supposedly Computex time coming out with the N1 and N1X APUs, which are essentially a GB10 or a DGX Spark, but made for the consumer market. Here is a ARM processor with 20 cores with an RTX 5070 level graphics card that runs ARM, but now you can play games on it if you wanted.
That sounds like a wonderful client for your living room.
Yeah.
Or just a main gaming PC, I guess, right?
Right.
Like, that's crazy.
So yeah, I can't wait to see the new types of devices that we're going to get that aren't simply AMD APUs or an Intel chip or whatever else. That there's going to be so much more variety, and competition breeds innovation. And in the end, consumers win. The more choices we have, the better we usually end up coming out. So that's what I'm most excited for.
I share your vision. I always loved seeing like the weird stuff that came out of like Shenzhen electronic markets and like opening that up to ARM processors instead of just x86 stuff is gonna. You're absolutely right. It's an exciting time to be a PC gamer. It turns out.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, what do you have going on at Craft Computing right now? Do you have stuff to plug? This is the plugging section.
Well, I just did another cloud gaming video, this time on an Intel GPU. We split up the Intel Arc B70 Pro into multiple virtual gaming machines, and it wasn't perfect, but man, it is so close to
really?
Perfect. There's some client level driver scheduling issues where certain games would not clock up the GPU. They would render, but they'd be rendering at like 800 megahertz instead of 2800 megahertz. But for the most part, it was rock solid stable. And if you've ever watched any of my tutorials for getting like an NVIDIA card to bifurcate into a VM like this, it's like a multi-hour process to get the drivers installed and to get everything configured properly. There's so many dependencies upon, this was install the card, enable SRIOV on the BIOS, and then tell the card in a single configuration file, I want you to split 4 ways. And it creates 4 virtual GPUs, and then you pass those through to the VMs, and you're done. And then on the client side, on the VM side, you install the retail Intel graphics driver just from their website.
From like inside the Windows VM.
Yeah.
That's
and then
wild.
It just works.
That is wild. And like it seems like to solve the clock, seems like the clock problem is something that's relatively straightforward to fix.
Yes, I think so. 2 days before I filmed, this didn't work. And then all of a sudden there was a driver update and everything started working. And there's a couple little scheduling bugs to get worked out, but that's like the easiest part of all of this.
When you do that partitioning, does it allocate perf? Should it theoretically allocate perf to the VMs that are active? Not necessarily.
The way GPU partitioning works is you're actually splitting up the memory amount. And so on a 32 gig card, if you say, I want 4 virtual GPUs, it'll create you 4 8 gigabyte GPUs.
Oh, no. The internet told me 8 gigabyte GPUs are a waste of sand, Jeff. I'm sorry.
Oh, totally. But here's the thing that happens, though, is each GPU can only access its partitioned amount of memory, but it has access to the full GPU core. And so if only one GPU is rendering, you get 100% of the GPU performance.
Okay.
And that scales dynamically.
So it's time slicing the GPU, but physically dividing the memory. That's interesting.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And you have to do this on Pro cards. You can't do this on consumer level cards, right?
Correct. Yeah. Right now it's the Intel Arc Pro cards. So the B50, B60, B70 are the ones that currently support this. But there's hope that if demand is high enough, it'll eventually come to consumer cards, or there'll be some little firmware or driver hack that you can make work.
I love a good firmware hack on a consumer level card. That's always good stuff. Jeff, where can people find you?
Craft Computing, youtube.com/Craft Computing. You can find me on all the socials at Craft Computing. Usually I'm on Blue Sky, but come hang out.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming by. We'll be back next week with a regularly scheduled episode of the Dual Boot Diaries. Make sure you check out Jeff's stuff over at Craft Computing. It is fabulous. I love it when a new Jeff video pops up in my feed because it's always going to be something good and I'm always going to learn some wild stuff. And we will be back next week with your fix of Linux talk. You can watch The Full Nerd on Tuesdays on the Full Nerd Network on YouTube, where we talk about PC hardware and guys in sheds building their own RAM. Did you see that video? That guy, we got to have him on. He's a mad scientist.
That was pretty crazy.
If you had asked me 2 weeks ago, can you make your own RAM? I'd be like, no, nobody can do that. Nobody's gonna make a clean room in their shed in their backyard. But it turns out, with the internet and some time and money, anything is possible. Full Nerd on Tuesdays. Expedition Handheld with Adam and Russ talking about all those little $300 handheld gaming devices on, I think, Fridays now, maybe Saturdays, I can't remember. Yep. And then Dual Boot Diaries once a week talking about Linux and occasionally Windows, but mostly
and
Linux. And
sometimes 3D printers, as it turns out.
Yeah, and sometimes we have a little bit of an aside about 3D printers. But that's relevant because that software runs so well on Linux. I was so blown away.
Yeah. The Bamboo Studio in particular runs amazingly well on Linux. And I can transfer all of my workload over there just like that. So
yeah, it's fantastic. We'll be back next week. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Jeff. See y'all next time. Bye, everybody.
Later on, guys.